Welcome back to The Experience, everyone. Today, my guest is one of my oldest friends, I guess, since I've been an adult. He's an author. He's a 2-time cancer survivor. And he's helped me a lot in my life. Probably one of my biggest mentors. One of my biggest fans, as you would say, has believed in me since the beginning of me cutting hair. And I'm just really grateful to have his friendship, and I'm glad he was able to come on the show today. Welcome, Gary Kreigh.
Hey, thanks, Eric. And you keep me young.
I tried to do the intro as best as I could, man.
Well, you did it good.
Dude, you look young, man. I mean, how old are you again?
69, going on 70.
That's my favorite number. I know we were joking about that in the lounge earlier. And so you came all the way from Gulf Shores.
Yeah, yeah.
3.5 hour drive?
No, just 3.
Just 3. Nice. Oh, that's because you do about 100.
Oh, but I do it a lot. I come over to New Orleans a lot. Yeah, it's my second home.
Yeah, because you and Tana moved from Indianapolis.
Yep.
Right? And then how long did y'all live here before?
Oh, 7, 8 years.
Nice. Mm-hmm. What did you do in your past life, because you're retired now?
Oh, I was a forensic accountant, forensic auditor, and did a lot of fraud things, and was an audit executive here in town at the Oxnard Hospital.
What did you tell me back in the day? I was like, so when people see you, is that a good thing? They're like, well, not really, but I try to help them. Like I try to help them do the right thing or push them in the right direction, right?
Yeah. And people don't like to see an auditor come into the door and whatever, but
you were always like willing to help.
Well, and I was kind of like lighthearted.
Yes.
And would always kind of laugh and things, and they forgot that I was an auditor, and then
that's awesome, dude.
Just start talking away.
You're a people person.
Well, I try to be.
Well, I mean, I think you are. I mean, we have a lot to talk about today. Can you tell us a little bit about like your books? Because you are an author.
Yeah.
You just published your latest one.
Yes.
When did that come out?
That came out actually, though, the end of last year, right at Christmas time, and things. Then I have another one coming out in the summer.
So that'll be novel 6.
That will be novel 5.
Novel 5 is the 4th one about New Orleans, or is this the 5th one?
It is the second one was about New Orleans.
Okay.
Second and third ones are about New Orleans.
Okay, gotcha. What got you into writing?
Oh, I've been writing all my life.
Okay, yeah, I remember you telling me that.
Yeah,
before.
And I'd write stories even when I was little and everything else, but I didn't do it professionally until I can tell you the exact date.
Dude, I'd like to hear it.
November 19, 2016.
Nice.
And I was in Mobile, Alabama, and that's when the doctor told me that I had a tumor about the size of my fist in my bladder, and one about the size of a quarter in my lung. And I asked him, I said, what kind of treatment are they going to do with something like that? Because that sounded really bad.
Right.
And he said...
Not some shit you want to hear.
Well, yeah, and he said, what's the point? I can tell you, Eric, I can think of a lot of points.
What's the point of me not kicking your ass, man? So this is the second time, obviously. Yeah, because since I've met you, you had the testicular cancer.
I had testicular cancer, in 2005, and did that. And at that time, I had gone to Indianapolis, and Lawrence Einhorn, who treated Lance Armstrong for his teat cancer. And he helped me back then. Well, he was the first person I called then when I found out I had bladder cancer.
What I always wondered, like, because obviously I've talked to you a lot over the phone over the years, and we've hung out, but like, what did that feel like to get it like a second time?
It was just really very surreal. I kind of knew something was going on, but I didn't know what. I didn't think it was that serious.
Yes. And
to think that you only had weeks to live, suddenly it just changed your whole life around and things. Now I'm doing well.
Right.
I am 6 years out from the initial diagnosis. My cancer came back in 2019. Okay. So now I'm, 4 years out?
Yes.
And so now I'm living again. Mm-hmm. And so I've changed from living, then thinking I was not going to live, to back to, it's like, I got my life back. So that's when I decided I'm going to write
Right.
books and things. Amazing thing happens, Eric, when you write. It everything comes out externally. You know, your focus, your life, and everything else. You have to put everything into your characters, into the plot, and whatever. You don't have time to think about yourself.
Gotcha.
Or what's going on, and so it's very healing. And
well, you're right, because like when you write, you creating these fictional characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of mystery, right? Or is it all mystery?
It's all mystery.
Are they based off of you, or like, because you know some people write about a book and it might be about like their life, but not really their life, but it's something that happened to them and inspired them. Is that what happens to you? Like, how do you create? How do you write?
Oh, I see people all the time, and I will sit and look, and things will happen. And yeah, some of my characters are based upon real people.
Nice.
My first book, I must have written it so it sounded almost like me, because I had a good friend in Gulf Shores, and after he read the book, he asked, he says, "Are you and Tana, my wife, okay?
Right.
Is your marriage okay?" Because my book, the people had problems in marriage and stuff.
Gotcha.
So anyway, it was just sounded so much like me and Tana that they thought for sure we were having marital problems.
Like I needed a little bit of oomph for the book, so I threw some of that in there. No, that's awesome, man. I mean, I wrote a lot when I was little, so I graduated with English honors. So I guess I'm.
Did you?
Artistic, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I don't speak like it, and I'm not really like the best writer anymore. But I used to love writing vampire stuff. Where I was into like that kind of genre, yeah, just all kind of fantasy, man. But I don't think I could write as well as possibly a book like you. But maybe if I put my head down, I know we talked about it one day. I'm gonna write a book, right?
You could be the.
I'll get you to help me.
You could be the Mel Ann Rice, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, remember that time at the salon when you showed me your book, one of the books you were working on, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's a lot."
It is a lot.
Yeah, and then you were explaining the process to me, and then I think back then, like I asked you what made you want to write. Do you remember that? Like, was that no?
No.
Because this was like maybe your second book. So this was just maybe 2 or 3 years after I met you.
Oh.
But you were working on it, and you said like somebody had to revise it again. Like, you were telling me all the processes.
Right.
And I was like, wow, that's a lot. But I thought that was cool that you were going to write a book or writing a book.
But it wasn't until after I got the diagnosis that I said, no, you got to do this for sure.
Gotcha.
But
were you thinking about just obviously finding that out, like giving up, like on writing?
No.
Okay, gotcha. So that you were all in once you heard that.
Oh, absolutely, all in. Yeah. And then, in fact, a lot of things about life, I was all in,
man,
because you just have to. You just got to keep going.
Oh, yeah, man.
And it's amazing how many people, I think a lot of healing and recovery comes from just making that commitment and going all in. And it was amazing sitting in the hospital sometimes and just feeling how the woe is me that goes on, and I understand it.
Yes.
People get something like that and it hits them really hard, but you can either fight or...
Well, I remember thinking to myself, like, because you were always such a good sport about it, you were always positive, which I learned a lot of things from you throughout my years. And when I was going through my thing that I was going through, I remember we would chat here and there. Every couple months I would call you, or you would call me. And when you told me about like being diagnosed, I guess it just didn't really register. Because I'm like, in my head, I'm like, well, here's this guy who has done a lot of humanitarian things, built wells in, where?
Haiti.
Yeah, I mean, you're building wells for people on the other side of the world, and like, why is he getting this again? Like, if anybody doesn't deserve it, like, why is he getting it? And so I guess I would get mad.
Sure.
Like, but I'm just kind of giving you like my little explanation for people so they can understand. But you were so positive, and because you were always positive throughout, like, all the years you came to me and we were friends, and like even with this new thing that's like a big thing, you were so positive. And I just remember going, this guy's sitting here, just being positive, fighting for his life, and I'm over here throwing mine away.
Oh,
so
no.
it just inspired me to like want to change.
Right.
So I just want to tell you thank you for that.
Oh gosh, I didn't know that. So that
I never really
that.
told you, but I figured
No.
this would be a good time.
I appreciate that very much, Eric.
Because you gave me hope, and then like you having hope for that, and you told me being like that is actually good it's good for the body, right?
It is. Absolutely. And obviously you're going to go through the stages
for sure,
and anger is part of that, and you can't help but think why and things. But I am a firm believer that good things can happen from bad experiences.
Correct.
And just like you and what you went through,
yes.
You're much more stronger. And then here you got this wonderful podcast and doing great things for people.
Everything has to happen, right, in order for something else to happen.
I know.
And I think that we don't always understand like why God does what He does,
right?
But you prevailed, and look at you have this other book. You're getting this award. Well, nominated for an award.
Yeah, I became a finalist of the Eric Hoffer Award.
What's that like? Because that's a big deal, right?
It is a big deal. It's an international award for free thinking and
man.
And
you're a free thinker. I always thought I was like, man, he's thinking crazy. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, no.
I'm joking.
And so it was a big honor to get that, because there's a lot of good authors that were nominated as finalists.
Correct. Do you feel like that's obviously that's a huge accomplishment? Like, so looking back now, you're like, I'm glad I stuck with it. Like, I'm glad I went all the way.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah. But there's no doubt that I was going to go all the way. I'm kind of one that once I stick my foot in, I jump in.
That's what I think I've always loved about you. And even like you helping me with like my first business plan to like you were always very like critique to the point, didn't cut any corners, but at the same time, you kind of made it seem like it's not as hard. Like, I don't know. It's just you just have a finesse about how you do things.
Oh, thank you. But and I remember putting together that plan, and of course there was
business plan.
There were certain things that I just meticulously wanted you to have and put in there, but then you were able to.
You taught me to understand, because I didn't understand. I was like, why do I need this? But you would explain it to me, and I'm like, okay, I get it. So that's what I always loved about you. I just felt like you knew everything.
Oh,
I mean,
I sure didn't. But you know what? I put a lot of that also into the books, because it takes an awful lot of planning.
What's it like to start a book? Like, if you're like, hey, I'm gonna start a new novel, like, what's the process?
Well, first of all, you have to have an idea about what it is. And sometimes it can be several ideas, because I really think that a good book has a lot of different parts into it. Yeah, absolutely. And so you just get the main thing. And I usually have a theme where I want what I want the moral of the story to be and stuff.
Gotcha.
So I always have that in my mind. And then I just plot out each step of how I want to get from A to Z, and then I let things happen. The characters come alive, and they take over sometimes the book. One time I had a story, and I had it all plotted out as to who did it, who committed the murder, and everything else. But as I was writing the characters, and as they were speaking to each other, oh my gosh, it dawned on me. He's like, no, he didn't do it, she did, and so then it all changed. I know, it was a big ha-ha
That's
moment.
like an aha moment, yeah. Sorry.
No, and so it even surprises me.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes like, the end of the books is like...
It's in there, but dude, that's wild. That's pretty cool.
But then that's why you also have editors and things to help you figure some things out.
Well, we're going to remember this book that I'm talking about when you first showed me that you were a writer at my salon years ago. Was that, if you remember, was it a book that you had like put down and like picked back up?
Yeah.
Okay, it was that book. And
Why Birds Fall.
Yes, and great book. I highly suggest people get it. Where can they get that at?
It's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble's online things, all of them.
And that's actually about some airplanes that crash.
Yeah, it was a real plane crash. Mm-hmm. Well, that's what got me going on it, because there was a plane crash in 1994.
Okay.
It was a commuter jet that flew from Indianapolis, Indiana to Chicago. And they experienced some icing conditions. And the way the crash happened was crazy because they're flying over Lake Michigan and there was ice was on the wings, but then the plane would roll and the pilots would get it back, and then finally they couldn't hold it anymore, and it just upside down and just crashed into the ground then.
Oh, wow.
And obliterated the plane. And that intrigued me so much because I was wondering, in this day and age, how can it happen?
Right.
What really went on? Well, it come to find out, because I got the National Transportation Standard Board report, and I'm reading it.
You figured it all out.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I did some of that research. And found out that it was a French plane, and I'm not saying anything about French planes.
Right.
But they did their testing, but they never tested over Great Lakes.
Oh, wow.
Because the Great Lakes has obviously a different
For sure.
atmospheric
pressure and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, over the Gulf and over the
a lot of things
Atlantic.
to consider flying a plane.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But they didn't do any of the testing to see that. And where the de-icing mechanisms just were placed at a place where it wouldn't catch the ice.
Oh,
and
shit.
So anyway, that's why it crashed. And I just thought there's a
novel
in that.
That got you. Wow. That's pretty crazy, man, that you...
I know.
Yeah. That's
why it's called Why Birds Fall.
I love it.
Just as symbolism.
I appreciate you. I remember when you sent that copy to us and then Leibniz started reading it first, and I was like, man, it took me a while to finally get a hold of it. So I think it's a great book. But this thank you. This new one that's coming out, tell us a little bit about that.
The one that's going to be out this summer. Mm-hmm. Well, I came from, I was raised in Chesterfield, Indiana. It's just a little town, 2,500 people.
Wow.
But the main thing about it is one of the largest spiritualist camps in the world, where, they have seances and they believe you can speak to the dead and things.
Oh, wow.
So being raised as a little boy in an environment where there's this camp there.
Like, hey, we're recruiting you. Come here.
A lot of folklore.
Yeah.
And stories would come out of
stuff
there.
Coming out of there.
Oh, gosh, and ghosts, and all that kind of thing. And then there's a park, and so I don't know if you ever heard of Puckwudgies, but they're little gnomes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, so they ran around the Mounds Park where I used to play and things. Well, I'm decided I need to get this out of my system. I need to talk about my
experience,
this town. Yeah, this little town. So we're going to put Chesterfield, Indiana on the map.
Nice, dude. That's what's up, man. When's the last time you've been there? Do you go there to visit often, or do you still have any family living there?
No, my parents are gone, and so there's no really reason for that. But my brother's still up that way.
Gotcha. As far as the book that we were speaking about earlier in the lounge, about New Orleans.
Yeah.
What inspired you to write that?
Oh, wow. I was in St. John, New Brunswick. Mm-hmm. Did I tell you this story before?
No, man. No.
Oh, okay.
That's why when we talked about it earlier, I was like, shit, we got to talk about that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was in New Brunswick, and I was taking a morning walk, and my family was there with me. And I was taking a walk, and I came across a homeless guy, and he was slumped over and everything up, but I didn't think anything about it because there was all kinds of homeless people in that area. And I did a tour of this little city, and as I was coming back, I saw him again. Only this time, I noticed that his head was bludgeoned and that he really... It wasn't good. Wow. Yeah, so, here I'm in St. John, New Brunswick. I don't know anything, and this was before cell phones and stuff. And so I asked for help, but nobody would help me.
Right.
They weren't going to help that home. So I ran and I did have somebody call. And then before the emergency people came, I knelt down to this guy and he said, hold on, blah. Well, after a while, I realized he wasn't going to make it.
Wow.
And that what he needed wasn't my encouragement. He needed to know it was okay to go. You just get to that point. And so I said something about, I said, you know what? I have a lot of regrets in my life. And but I know, God's a forgiving God.
Yes.
And if you've got those kind of regrets and you see his hand, it's okay. He wants to take you home.
Right.
And I talked to him a little bit more, and I says, don't worry about what happened in the past. You know, home is where the future is. And he died.
Right there?
Yeah, right there.
Dude.
And so it was just, though, around us, there was just this peace that, I can't describe very well.
Huh.
What I didn't realize was there was a woman standing behind me. She heard this whole thing. And after he died, and I stepped back, and she says, "You killed him." I said, "Why?" I said, "No."
Excuse me.
I said, "I gave him the gospel, and he died."
Right.
And so she says, "Well, whatever you said, he wanted to die. Same thing, same difference." And I said, "I'm pretty sure it's not the same difference, but."
Right. What was she doing there? Was she like a paramedic or something? Or?
Yeah, no, she was just a
spectator.
Passerby and everything. Well, the police came, and of course, they wanted to interview me and everything else. Well, in the middle of my interview with this policeman, she comes right up and says, "He killed him. I saw it."
Dude.
Oh, gosh.
Dude.
Well, you could kind of tell, though, she wasn't.
Gotcha. She wasn't all there.
She wasn't all there.
Yeah.
And so anyway, he let me go and everything else. But I thought, what if it didn't turn out okay? What if he didn't believe me? Mm-hmm. And here I'm in a strange city.
Yeah, man.
It could have turned out really bad.
So that's where the novel was inspired?
Yeah, that's how I got going. So that's what. But the one thing was, though, I feel very strongly when I write a book that I need to know the place.
Gotcha.
And I know New Orleans really well.
Right.
I didn't know St. John. I like to talk about the culture and the people and food, and all that kind of thing so that the reader can really get it. Yeah. Well, I couldn't do that in St. John. So I brought it back to New Orleans. So
And we have enough homeless people to actually,
make it reality, and things.
What do you think actually happened to that guy?
You want the one that died?
Yes. Like you said, blunt force trauma to the head, or?
Yeah.
So
well, as I write in my book, he was homeless.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't going to, investigate or anything like that. And
right. But from what you saw, maybe he might have somebody jumped him or.
Well, I feel that way, and the reason why I say that is because there was a knapsack.
Gotcha.
And it was rifled through.
Yeah.
And I kind of, when he, when you pass away, you lose your faculties and everything. He started peeing on things. Well, I didn't want him to pee on his knapsack, so I just kind of moved it away.
That's what I see you, man.
Well, that woman thought I was rifling through his stuff.
Dude.
So
being a good Samaritan, a good human, and you're getting shit on by this lady. Who is this lady? We need a freaking. All right.
But I could see some things there,
Gotcha.
And he collected things that was of artistic, and that he had an appreciation for music and the arts and that, and so I figured this guy at one time had a fantastic life probably, or knew enough to do that. And that intrigued me even more. That's
pretty amazing, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it really kind of changed. So anyway, I did dedicate the book to him.
Okay.
I don't know his name. I've never found, we'll never know, but I just dedicated to the man in King's Square.
That's awesome, man. That's, I'm sure writing that book probably felt pretty emotional a lot. And
well, what it did, I certainly don't have the homeless figured out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And even the book, I don't have it figured out. I don't have answers to it, but I did bring up the questions about, the homeless for us to think about as a people and things.
That's definitely a big issue right now all over, right?
Over.
Especially in New Orleans. A lot of cities. Well, do you have any thoughts on that? I know we're kind of maybe getting off topic, but what do you think could be a solution for that? Or
see, that's just it. I brought up all the, and I guess I'll speak from the heart. Sometimes I don't have a whole lot of compassion because I figure, hey, you look like you should be able to get a job.
Right,
why don't you get a job, and everything
else. A lot of people talking about mental health nowadays and,
Yes. But I can't see that from a person, who if you have mental health or not.
Right.
So I just don't put a lot of judgment on that. I have my thoughts and opinions about things, but I think compassion has a lot to do with it and things. Yeah. And I know this book that I'm talking about, it was set in 1950s.
Okay.
Well, we had even a different view of the homeless way back.
Yes.
Back in there and things.
Correct.
And in this book, there's a homeless person that I am talking about who stole. He was a thief.
Gotcha.
Well, even in New Orleans,
you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, they can't get jobs as easily, and that kind of a thing. And so it makes a big difference.
Right.
As to nice, when man. Has someone paid the price,
Yeah.
So I don't, Eric, to answer your question,
man.
I don't have answers.
Yeah, man.
Now.
I don't
think, and obviously the society doesn't have answers because of all the problems we're having.
Yeah, people get upset about it and people get pissed about it, but I don't really see many people doing anything about it. So I don't know, man. Maybe if people started trying to band together, and I don't know if more than one person cared about it or a few people. I do see a lot of good people out there. One of my buddies, Justin Hemel, shout out, has like a found nonprofit for like giving different things to the homeless, food, right. clothes, stuff like that, and. So there are a few people out there trying to do things, but I guess, I don't know, man.
Well,
touchy subject.
Over in Pensacola and things, it became a law where you couldn't give somebody a blanket.
No shit.
And I went out with somebody and we cooked hamburgers on a grill because there was this one place that was thing. Well, I didn't realize. And then someone came up to me and said, wow, that's really kind of you to do this, considering what could happen. And I said, what could happen?
What, some flies are going to get on the burgers?
No, I could have been arrested for.
Holy shit.
Because you weren't supposed to be giving food.
Don't grill burgers and give them to the homeless in Pensacola.
Yeah, right. But I don't think it's like that anymore. So right. I don't want to say anything bad about Pensacola because it's
right. No,
great
yeah,
town.
Man. I mean, every city has its issues and its problems. So as far as like a book release that happens during the summer, do you have to like tour and like go to places? Like, how does that stuff work? Do you have like
I could have a launch and things, but I do, to be honest, Eric, I haven't really been well enough, because of my cancer thing, to really do that like I should or want to do.
Gotcha.
But I'd love to start.
Gotcha. Where are you at with that at the moment?
With what?
The cancer.
I am cancer free.
Gotcha.
And I am dealing with
the
side effects of chemo.
Yes.
And, the things is what the chemo had done. Because I did take MVAC, which is a very harsh chemo. And so now I'm dealing with things that's related to my kidneys and my lungs and pancreas.
It's a few setbacks for, in order to live.
I know, right.
Yeah.
But I'll take it.
Yeah. I mean, you got to keep on rolling with the punches, right?
I know.
Like, what's your next steps and adventures, man? Because you're always, I feel like I'm always busy, but like you're busier than me. So like, what are you doing when you're sitting at, like, what you doing right now?
To be honest, the writing and keeping up on all that, it can become a full-time job and things, but it's not like a job. It's I enjoy it so much.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Like, so when you start writing, do you like have like a set schedule? Like, hey, I'm gonna wake up at 6, I'm gonna drink some coffee, and I'm gonna start writing from like 7 to 10, or like, what do you do, man? Like, how does it go?
Yeah, I do. I try to make sure I write every single day.
Okay.
But I also go with the flow of how I feel. Because sometimes I don't necessarily feel it, but sometimes I just got to get up out of my chair and things, and I'll go to the restaurant, go to the beach, and I'll watch people. And as soon as you start watching people, then ideas come to the head, and I always usually have my iPad and I'll start clicking away, and things.
Do you like formally write, or do you use a lot of electronics, or a little bit of both?
Both, all. I'm so old school that having a pen and paper just really there's something feels good about it.
Yeah, I definitely, I guess like with my ADHD, I write a lot of stuff down, and I don't know, man, it's like I lose them. I have so many damn notepads and books, And I did start like taking some notes in my phone, and I guess it kind of works, but I never look at it. But once I write it, I kind of remember it. I don't know if that's a thing for people. Is that what happens to you, or do you have to go back and look through all the...
You know what? If I'm out and I write some notes down, and I've got a box in the garage.
Yeah.
I open up that box, I put it in things, and then periodically I'll go back to that box.
Nice.
Pull out some notes and say, "Oh wow, that was a great scene." Or sometimes I'll read it and like, I don't know what I was thinking.
Right.
And so then that gets tossed.
Yeah, you wrote that on a napkin at the restaurant, but you're like, shit, I threw the napkin away.
Yeah.
I can't remember the end of this book.
Or I would say, hey, I think that'll make a funny scene. And then I realize that's not funny at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
it didn't work.
Like the process of like getting somebody to, what do you call it, proofreading? Like, what do you call those people that do all that
Editors.
stuff? Editors. Is that like a long process? I mean, I know we've talked about it, but for people that don't know.
Yes, it is a long process, especially when you're first starting out. Yeah. Now I'm getting better at it.
Okay.
But there's different kinds of editors.
Different levels.
And I would before submitting to publisher or whatever, I would have somebody do a development.
Okay.
And what that does is, was your idea marketable?
Yeah.
Was it, did it capture things to see if they even wanted to go to the next step? And then there's some, line and copy editing where they really break down each chapter. Does the book make sense? Mm-hmm. And that kind of a thing. And then they'll go through and then they'll hit each paragraph, each sentence to make sure, is that really what you wanted to say, or does it flow smoothly?
Correct, because I remember when you had gotten a return on that same book that I'm talking about, you were kind of like, yeah, man, they told me a lot of this has to change that. And I'm like, but that's your book. Like, but you told me, well, somebody, smarter than me is like telling me that, and it made sense to you. So it's kind of wild. Like, what does that feel like when, you might have had this like whole section of a book, but now somebody's telling you that, hey man, this got to go.
You gotta swallow your pride.
Right.
When I get comments, I will look over them, but I set them aside and I won't look at them for a day or two. For the very reason I just want to get it out of my system. Okay. Because, you put a lot of your heart into it. Yeah. And it can, some of it's like, I really liked it, but my editor didn't like that part. And so, it's either, what do I like, or do I want my book published and things? And to be honest, an editor knows what people want to read and will sell and stuff. So then I'll go back and I love the editing process. I like making my book better. Wow. And so I look at it positively, but I do have to wait for a little bit because, you can take it to heart.
Correct.
Then there are some sections that I will cut out, but I never throw it away.
Right.
I might be able to use it in another book or another scene, or something like that. Or maybe change the characters around and whatever. Mm-hmm. So, it's gone, but maybe just for a little while.
Right. Have you like ever brought a book that you wrote to an editor and they're like, we can't use this at all? Like, has that happened? Or the first book that you brought, you were like, hey, I took 6 years to write this book. I know it's going to get published.
Yeah, right. The answer is no. I've never had someone say that I'm not going to do this. I've changed it, and I've changed it a lot so that they would accept it. Okay, so eventually they did accept it.
You adapted and evolved to whatever it needed to be.
Absolutely, and then I got to the point where I wrote some things and I knew it's not going to fly. It's not very good. So I just keep it in my own.
How many
file?
Was it your first book, or like how many companies you said turned you down one time before like somebody published? Didn't we talk about that once? Or am I making that up?
You make up a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But to answer your question, I don't think I remember anymore how many times. But yeah, you have to have thick skin.
So like there's been a few times where they're like, this one says no, this one says no, and then somebody finally accepts it. Is that how that works?
Yes. Or like the publisher I have, she said, no, not in this way. You need to change these things before I'll consider it.
Okay.
And I did it, and I changed it, and she would say, much better, not there yet. And then I would have another editor take a look at it and to get a second opinion. And one book, I had about 3 editors take a look at it and make suggestions and stuff. And I'm telling you, each time, it is just so much better.
Oh, yeah.
And I am so glad that they did that.
What's it feel like to actually have like a book published? It's got to be a big accomplishment, right?
Oh, it's a great feeling to see the words and everything else. Oh, absolutely. It's really good. But
all right. Sorry.
No, but I have to. I guess I will be honest. I like writing it and doing it more. So when the book comes out, I'm ready for the next one.
Oh shit.
Okay, so I don't sit there and like. Oh,
right. You don't read the whole entire thing again.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any audiobooks, or have you considered that? I know we talked about that.
I've considered it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
And I was just talking not too long ago about whether or not I would do my own.
Yeah, we had one of your fans encouraging you to do it, and I agreed with her. I mean, why do you think you wouldn't want to? You don't like your voice, you said?
I don't like my voice, yeah.
I said that about myself. I still don't like it.
Oh,
yeah, I think it's weird.
You got a great voice, yeah.
I don't know. People say that. I think it's crazy. But so would you think that you could read it better with, like obviously if somebody's going to read your book as an audio book, do you think they could read it better than you because you wrote it? I guess that was my question.
You know what? I know my characters so intimately. I know exactly why they're mad, and I feel them being mad or sad, all of that. And so I feel like I could.
Yeah, like I don't think someone else can like read that as well as you. I guess that's what I was trying to say.
Right. I think
we'll
you're
work
right.
on it. Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe I can coach you. Maybe I can coach you while you're doing it. That would be cool.
Either that or you could read it.
No. I
think you could.
I can't feel it as much as you, man. No, I would be too damn intimidated. I remember when David Goggins came out with his book, Can't Hurt Me. Yeah. I think he was like the first official, novel that was like a podcast type. So they would read an episode and then talk about it.
Right.
Talk about that chapter. I said episode. I thought that was pretty cool.
Very cool.
So, I mean, maybe you can do something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I have to tell you, maybe one of my New Orleans books needs to have a Cajun guy reading it.
Well, then I might be your man. I might be your man.
Might be,
Is it okay if they're from the West Bank?
From Lafitte.
Oh, yeah.
Got to be from Lafitte.
Yeah, man. Marrero, Lafitte, all the same thing. So what else is happening, after this episode? Second podcast, right? You've been on another one?
Right.
What kind of podcast was that?
That was 4 authors. And Rick Eisen.
Okay. Shout out.
Yeah, has a podcast for authors, and I met him at the Left Coast Crime Conference.
Oh, wow.
Where I was on a panelist, and we talked about plots and characters and different things. And so we were there with 3 other authors, and it was dynamite to see all these people with such talent.
Did you, when you did the podcast, did you go somewhere, or was it? I mean, I'm just.
No, it was Zoom. It was just kind of Zoom. He was out in San Francisco, and I think San Francisco. And I...
Does he have people go there, or is it all like a Zoom stuff?
Yeah, it's kind of like a Zoom.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I know we've been talking way before this episode. You're thinking about creating one, right? Like you want to come out with a podcast.
Absolutely.
What can you tell for listeners? What would that be about? Because I would rather you say it.
Well, I think going through adversity, I think both of us in this room here have gone through some adversity, and we have a lot to say. But there's listeners out there who have gone through their own adversity, and I'm sure they've got stories they can tell, and those stories need to be told.
Yes.
And their voice needs to be heard. And I think that because they can help others then through their stories. There's a lot of people who feel that maybe they're the only ones that's going through it, and that's not true at all.
For sure.
Or some of them are afraid to tell that they're going through trouble, through addiction or what it is, or even some mental health issues.
Yes.
And they can't keep it in. They got to let it out. So I'm hoping through, just like what you're doing here,
thank you.
it reaches people and gives them
gives them hope.
Yep, give them hope and also the courage to step out and get the help they need and that kind of a thing.
Yeah, because it's this is an outlet, you know what I mean? It gives you, you know what you want to do. I think is special. I'm not sure if there are any podcasts like that. I mean, I know you said there are a few, right? Or
I'm sure there are. Yeah.
So to me, talking about like whether it's a disease or addiction, which is considered a disease, talking to people about them going through it and like what was it like, or do you have it just diagnosed?
Right. Chronic pain, people going through chronic pain as well as.
Yeah, because, and somebody might be listening in that's like, hey, man, I could reach out to that person. Right. And, I really think that that's a cool idea, a cool concept. I think it's great. It's another way of you helping people like you have done before. And I'm excited to try to help you get that off the ground, dude, because
thank you.
I think it's going to be great. Do you think it would be like a once a week thing? I
think it will.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Have some people come in and
well, you want to.
And you know a lot of people too.
I know. I know so many people that would fit in and who have something to say that would contribute to others and
a lot of learning
and a lot of
learning about it,
But it also needs to be consistent. I mean, because people, if we are helping people, then they want to know that we're there and they can count on us.
Well, I definitely feel like you would be the man for the job as far as that goes, because I know you've been doing your research. You're going to do a ton of research, which is going to make me research more, which I guess I need to start doing, because I don't do that enough. That's what I've always loved about you. I hear things from people. I learn from you and people that I talk to while I'm either cutting hair or doing this or listening to podcasts, but it's like Eric needs to start researching. It's just one of those things, man. I don't know why. I don't do it. I don't know.
I would think that you would be, you're so inquisitive that researching would be one of your fortes.
Well, I think I learned from watching. So when I would, like, whether I'm watching an episode or looking at a video, I have tried to start reading more because I feel like I need to get smarter. But I do a lot of audiobook.
Okay.
But then I feel like I forget a lot of this stuff. That's why I told you earlier, like when I started writing things down, I feel like I started remembering better from writing. But I never go back and look at the notes, which is kind of weird. But I end up, if I do go look at the note, I'm like, yeah, I wrote that. And I was like, shit, how did I remember that? But I can't remember this book I just read.
Yeah, but do you ever see some notes and you thought, wow, that was really great.
Yeah,
that was a great thought. How did I come up with it?
Well, for sure. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I'll write down a ton of stuff and never go back in that damn. I mean, dude, I have 10 notebooks. I'm not lying. And then it's like, I'll remember what I wrote in that book. I've like never written any more things. It's like I picked another one. It's like the ADHD is all over the place.
Right.
But I did speak to this girl that was going to be a doctor. Well, she's probably a doctor by now, but this is when I was doing her hair back in the day. And she's like, yeah, I have ADHD. And she's like, the way that I read is by having 2 different books. And maybe 5 minutes at a time, I'm reading one. And then I switch.
Oh.
Because she's like, because you probably get bored, really easy. And I was like, oh, yeah. See, an audiobook, I could like nail it in like a day or two. Physical copy, I'm still reading the first page of Why Birds Fall. I'm still in the first, couple pages. And I'm like, shit. But it's like, I don't know why I do that. So I've tried to dedicate time.
Yeah, I don't know what you're going through. I don't understand.
that. I mean, you can't diagnose me.
Yeah, I know it's real, but there's no way I can feel what it's like to be inside there. That's why I think that, like this podcast is so valuable and so
thank you, man.
Powerful, really.
Thanks, man.
To help people and to help understand.
That's I feel like it's my new way of learning. Same thing with every guest that's on the show, because people are always like asking me like, who's the next guest or who, and it's like, I want people to know what it's like to write a book a little bit. Cause I think about it sometimes. I'm like, man, maybe I could write a book or Gary could help me, but like, what's the process?
Right.
So it's things like that I feel like the podcast are helping people understand and become aware of and learn from, I hope. So I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
And hopefully next time we have you on, we'll be possibly either doing it or launching it. I don't know, man.
Absolutely.
We'll figure it out. And how can people find you?
I am. My website is Gary Kreigh. That's KREIGH.
Okay.
.com, and they can email me at gkreigh@gmail.com, and I will get right back to them.
And you have Instagram, which
I do.
Chris is lovely enough to put that up on the screen. And so the book that's coming out midsummer, end of summer, when's it?
Probably mid to late summer, and it's.
And how can people find that?
It'll be on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. All of them, all the major ones,
awesome.
Everyone, especially online and things. And it will be called The Circle of Chesterfield.
Well, I appreciate you coming on tonight.
Thank you so much.
You for driving a very long way to come here and talk with me and talk to everybody. Maybe one day I'll get you to help me write a book.
All right.
And I don't think it's my time yet. When do you know it's time?
You'll know. Nice. You'll know.
Of course. Well, dude, thank you for so much for coming on, and I can't wait to have you back on. And everybody, if you like this episode, there is a subscribe button at the bottom. And thank y'all for supporting us. And thank you, Gary, for coming on.
Thank you, Eric. It was awesome.
Awesome. Have a good night, y'all. Thank you.